This is Southern Cross News with Rachel Williams.
Good evening. A young Avondale woman has died after being struck by a car on a country road near Longford overnight. Police say the 25-year-old was walking at the time, but investigators are still trying to work out why she was out in the dark on her own.
Police say the woman was walking alone along this stretch of Woolmers Lane around 9 o'clock last night when she was struck. Both the vehicle and the pedestrian were heading towards the Midland Highway. The woman walking was wearing all black.
We don't know at this stage, while the young female was out on that part of the road. There's no street lighting on that road. It's a dark piece of road just out of Longford.
There's no indication speed was a factor, and police say support is being offered to the traumatised driver who called 000.
There doesn't appear to be any fault on the part of the driver at this stage. However, the investigation is still continuing.
The investigation is specifically looking at why the young woman was walking along this section of road at the time. That will form part of the report that's being prepared for the coroner.
That's the main concern at the moment, is just understanding why she was where she was.
Anyone who witnessed a person walking along Woolmers Lane around 9 o'clock last night is asked to contact police. Monika Dadson at Southern Cross News.
A bus driver charged over the death of a pedestrian in Hobart CBD has pleaded not guilty. A 46-year-old Queensland woman was killed in the collision on the corner of Macquarie and Campbell Streets in July last year. Through his lawyer, Stephen Murray Hartstong, today pleaded not guilty to causing death by negligent driving. The case has been set down for a hearing in February. Launceston Deputy Mayor Rob Soward has appeared in court over allegations he used a carriage service to harass another person. Through his defence lawyer, Tim Ellis SC, Mr Soward pleaded not guilty. He's accused of harassing a woman by using her name to make online inquiries to medical and health services and using her work email as the return contact. A hearing date has been set for November 17. Mr Soward has been bailed to reappear again in late September. A 69-year-old St Helens man has been accused of indecently assaulting a woman on a Jetstar flight to Tasmania. Charles James Morgan Griffiths appeared in the Launceston Magistrates Court this morning. It's alleged on a flight between Melbourne and Launceston in May last year, Mr Griffiths forced his hand between a woman's thighs. He told Magistrate Simon Brown he intended to plead not guilty. The man has been granted bail to reappear on September 12. Tasmania's Human Services Minister has been in the firing line on the first day of Parliament since the winter break. It's amid allegations of misleading the House on child protection, alongside the shock resignation of the Children's Commissioner.
After a 7-week winter recess, it was expected to be a fiery first day back. The Human Services Minister today in the hot seat just a week after the resignation of the Children's Commissioner.
Can you confirm that due to his criticism of your government and his policy, Mark Morrissey was told his contract would not be renewed?
Now that would have to be one of the biggest falsehoods of all time, Madam Speaker, to make in this House.
But it was falsehoods allegedly made by the minister that kept her in the firing line. Both opposition parties questioning advice given to Ms Petrusma on care provider Safe Pathways, minutes before she told Parliament all 11 children under its care had been removed.
The Acting Deputy Secretary has told your office in an email 5 minutes prior to question time that only 8 of the 11 children had been contacted.
My office was provided with strong, clear, verbal advice confirming discussions that had taken place earlier that morning.
Repeated questions on a perceived contradiction in an email exchange. The Premier instead pressed on the issue of child protection failings.
Premier, how do you justify the actions of this dangerous shambles of a minister?
Focus on what is important, and that is looking after vulnerable children.
It's clear from that email exchange that the minister's office knew all 11 children had not been contacted.
An audit into the controversial care provider Safe Pathways today released by the Minister, finding no evidence of harm to children, but with a recommendation to terminate the funding agreement.
We still, for example, don't know how much taxpayers' money was paid to Safe Pathways.
A question likely to be raised when Parliament resumes tomorrow. Jacqueline Robson, Southern Cross News.
The Glenorchy City Council will remain suspended from duties for a further 6 months. The local government minister says aldermen failed to provide adequate reasons as to why they shouldn't be resuspended. A decision on the embattled council is expected with the release of a Board of Inquiry report currently held up in legal action.
The community is frustrated. They would like to see this matter brought to a head and for a decision to be made. Unfortunately, there are legal processes that need to take their course.
The total cost of the Board of Inquiry is approximately $830,000. Commissioner Sue Smith will remain in her role. Rescuers have found a 21-year-old man this morning after he spent the night in freezing conditions in the Highlands when a fishing trip went wrong. The Australian Maritime College student became lost in the Thousand Lakes area about 4 o'clock yesterday after accidentally separating from his group. The Westpac helicopter located the young man at about 10 o'clock this morning. He'd spent the night in a cave kilometres from where he lost his friends.
He was certainly overwhelmed when he got back, and I gave him the mobile phone to talk to his mother in Victoria, who berated him about not having a map with him.
Police are using this example to remind adventurers to carry emergency supplies. A tranche of extra medical beds is hoping to ease pressure on the Royal Hobart Hospital's emergency department. 3 procedure beds and 5 treatment recliners will be allocated to the emergency department. It's in addition to 19 beds and 4 treatment recliners for admitted patients in a flexible short stay unit to open next month.
I'm very pleased to inform the House that we are opening 6 new step-up mental health rehab beds at Tolosa Street from November to take further pressure off the Royal, but more importantly to support our patients who need that help.
So we certainly welcome the announcement of additional beds, but certainly we also believe that there needs to be further investment across the board strategically to improve the circumstances currently faced at the Royal Hobart Hospital and across the Tasmanian health system.
What are those sort of... A recruitment process for additional nursing staff is also continuing. Hydro Tasmania remains locked in negotiations to reach a new gas supply agreement for the Tamar Valley Power Station. Heavy industrial users have been given a temporary extension to their gas supplies after the uncertainty of the hydro deal threatened to increase their bills.
The Energy Minister and Hydro CEO inspect progress on one of the state-owned company's new projects. This turbine part will upgrade the Cluny Power Station on the River Derwent.
We can find ways to increase the output of the units up and down the Derwent Valley by 80 gigawatt hours. So making the most of the resources and the power stations we've got is the first step to maximising our energy output.
As well as upgrades like this, Hydro is also examining pumped hydro, which moves water uphill when there's excess power to use its stored gravitational energy later. The Australian National University has identified 2,000 possible sites across the state.
We want to make sure that Tasmania is at the forefront of realising the transition to clean energy nationally, and our hydro system is a very important part of it.
But one issue affecting Tasmania's energy security is the troubled negotiation on a new gas supply contract for the Tamar Valley Power Station. Hydro's current agreement with the Tasmanian gas pipeline is due to expire in December.
We're focused on getting the best result for Tasmania, and we're intent on reaching that best result through commercial negotiations.
With this uncertainty looming, it threatened to significantly increase gas prices for other major industrial users like Bell Bay Aluminium, whose contracts were due to expire later this month. But now those agreements have been extended until December.
We've agreed with TGP to extend those contracts through to the end of the calendar year, which gives us a little more breathing space.
But if the parties can't reach a deal, the matter could go to arbitration. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
A group of workers from a Hobart aged care home have had a dream come true, winning almost $180,000 in Taz Lotto. The lucky staff members said they couldn't believe their luck when they received the call last night.
Most of us will only ever dream of winning Taz Lotto. But this morning, the cork was popped by these lucky winners as their dream had come true. The 28 workers have had a $2 weekly syndicate for years, organised by their colleague Maggie. This persistence has paid off big time.
$177,505.10. Exciting, yes, and a regular customer, so which is really good.
The cleaning and hospitality workers have got a spring in their step after finding out just last night. Between them, they'll have a share of more than $6,000 each.
Some of us struggle week to week, you know, and it's just to see their faces this morning and the way it affected different people, and it was just overwhelming.
They work very hard, and it's good to see them have a smile on their face and have a bit of luck.
This is where the winning ticket was purchased. Wish me luck.
Now the question of how the thousands will be spent.
I hope my children are watching because I'm going to give them some of my money, my 3 lovely children. Yep.
It's a beautiful feeling because you can share your win and your joy and your luck with everybody.
They plan to celebrate together with a nice champagne outside of the laundry. Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Congratulations. Well, Tasmania's renowned mountain biking hub in the northeast has had its boil water alert lifted. Taz Water today announcing Derby and Branksholme now have access to treated drinking water straight from the tap. The internationally acclaimed biking site at Derby formed part of the government's argument for a takeover of Taz Water.
This particular northeast scheme involves a major water treatment plant at Ringarooma and 30 kilometres of pipe to the other townships. So it can't be done, there's no way that this could have been done in response to the government's proposed takeover.
3 Tasmanian townships remain on boil water alerts. They're expected to be lifted by mid next year. Tasmanian support services are shining a spotlight on homelessness. Some providers say it's an invisible issue in our community and it's getting worse.
Louis Van travels around the Greater Hobart area, offering food, support and information to around 120 people 6 nights a week.
A lot of the work that we do and what our volunteers do is that companionship and being able to have a talk to people.
This is one of several services highlighted at the launch of Homelessness Week. 17-year-old Harmony has lived in supported accommodation and knows all too well why this help is needed.
Homelessness is a very big issue because everyone thinks that, looking at us teenagers think, yeah, we're just some reckless teenagers, but we're not. It's either family ways, it's either just personal stuff, and it is hard and it does get looked over.
The ABS says there's around 1,500 people in Tasmania that are homeless each year. So it's an issue for us that we really need to focus on to make sure that we can find housing but also support people in need.
There's either old people, young, age, doesn't matter. It's everyone that just either can't live at home or just can't afford to live in this world because of prices.
One new organisation helping homeless people is A Paw Up, which distributes pet food.
Sometimes the only place homeless people get comfort and love and affection from is their pet. That's all they have. So it's incredibly important to them.
And for many of these services, community involvement can go a long way.
People can get involved by donating food that can go out onto the van for that evening. There are just lots of different ways, donating to St Vincent de Paul so that we have the finances to put the food on the van every night.
Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
Now a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to TasPlan, your local super fund. The Australian share market has closed lower with every sector down after the miners gave up earlier gains. The ASX 200 index has dropped by 29.8 points. And a short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 79.26 US cents and 67.12 euro cents.
Following his rousing World Para-Athletics campaign in London, shot put star Todd Hodges has returned to Tasmania with his prized bronze medal. But the former world record holder is setting an ambitious new goal and overhauling his technique to achieve it. Todd Hodges still feels the rush from his final throw at July's World Titles, where he crept into third place by a 1 centimetre margin.
The plan just worked spontaneously. I was very consistent, and there's more to come.
There sure is. Hodges is firmly focused on his holy grail, a gold medal at the 2020 Tokyo Paralympics. To get there, the 29-year-old is tweaking his training.
Not lifting the weights this speed, but really explosive, like actual being a shot putter.
Hodges resolved to shake up his routine after a disappointing result at the Rio Paralympics last year. So far, it's working. London's bronze bliss encouraging Hodges to remain focused on his goal.
The first muscle to go is your head. And if you got this right and thinking straight and keeping all the negativity out of it, and you can go until you're 40 years of age.
Todd threw a personal best of 16.59 metres in 2016. It was a world record at the time. He's now set the lofty target of 18 metres for the 2019 World Championships. As high as Hodges climbs, he stays supremely proud of his Tasmanian roots, and he embraces being a role model for para-athletics competition.
I come from, just an average kid who had a few learning difficulties to being not a champion of the world.
Hodges' bronze is his 5th medal on the international stage. The Hobart Hurricanes have signed a new general manager. Phil Rigby will officially begin the role in September after relocating from Brisbane. Rigby is credited with turning around Queensland cricket's commercial performance in recent years. The Canes hope their new boss will create similar financial growth here so the club can invest more money into the game at the grassroots level. The men's and women's Big Bash seasons begin in December.
Good evening. Hobart, Launceston, Burnie and Devonport all on 15 today. This 4 of the same has been happening a fair bit lately, and just on or above average the temperatures today, with a few showers over the west and northwest. 17 degrees the high at Eddystone Point, St Helens, Friendly Beaches and Campania 16, Wynyard and Cressy 15, King Island and Bushy Park 14 degrees, Flinders Island, Strawn and Low Head 13. An extensive area of low cloud was caught wrapping around a low over the Tasman Sea off the east coast of the nation. A cold front is south of WA with a cold pool of air in its wake. The high over the mainland maintained mostly clear skies. The northeast had our clearer weather today, with most of the cloud over the west and south. Tomorrow the high will move over the eastern states as the low to the east weakens. The next front tracks towards South Australia. The current southwesterlies will turn north-northwesterly tomorrow, increasing to 15 to 25 knots over the west later. Into tomorrow we go, and partly cloudy conditions for Hobart, 16 the high, 15 for Geeveston, partly cloudy for Bothwell, 14 the top. Launceston, mostly sunny, bit of cloud, a cold start, 15 the high, 14 for Devonport, and Cressy partly cloudy too, 15 the maximum. For Burnie, a possible light shower and 13 degrees, 15 for Strawn and Curry with light showers as well, while for St Helens tomorrow sunny and 15, 16 the top for Swansea, Orford mostly sunny and 15. On Thursday, a fine start before rain develops over the west and north in the afternoon, extending statewide in the evening. Showers for all on Friday, less over the east coast, snow to 800 metres. Showers clearing from the east and northeast on Saturday morning with a little more snow. Showers and a possible storm for Perth, partly cloudy for Adelaide and Melbourne. An early taste of spring for Sydney and Brisbane, and sunny further north. Current conditions clear. It's 9 degrees in Hobart, 9 degrees in Launceston, a bit warmer in Devonport, and that's where we leave it tonight, Rach.
Looks like a nice day coming up. Thanks, Murph. Well, that's Southern Cross News for this Tuesday, the 8th of August. Thanks for joining us. Good night.